The boy who became a killer of killers. Pedro Rodrigues Filho story. What if I told you? There was a man who claimed to have killed over 100 people. But here's the twist. He didn't see himself as a criminal. He believed he was delivering justice. A boy born into violence, raised in anger, and transformed into one of the most feared killers in history. This is the chilling story of Pedro Rodrigues Filho, also known as the Killer of Killers. Pedro was born in 1954 in Brazil into a violent and troubled household. His father was abusive. His mother lived in fear. Violence was not something Pedro learned later. It was something he grew up watching every single day. And then something happened that would shape the rest of his life forever. Pedro's father once brutally attacked his mother while she was pregnant with him. Yes, Pedro claimed that even before birth, his life began with violence. At just 14 years old, Pedro committed his first murder. Not out of greed, not out of revenge for himself, but because he believed the victim deserved it. A local politician was accused of corruption, and Pedro took justice into his own hands. This was the beginning of a long and bloody path. Pedro didn't kill randomly. He targeted criminals, drug dealers, murderers. He believed he was cleaning society. But the truth, he was becoming exactly what he hated, a killer. By his own confession, he murdered dozens of people before even turning 18. His victims included gang members, criminals, even his own father. Yes, Pedro eventually killed his father after discovering that he had murdered Pedro's mother. Pedro's killings followed a pattern. He didn't kill for pleasure. He killed with purpose, or at least what he believed was purpose. His methods were brutal but direct. Close-range attacks, knives and simple weapons. No complicated planning. He preferred face-to-face confrontation. Why? Because he wanted his victims to know why they were dying. He often said, "I only killed people who deserved it." But law doesn't work like that. Justice isn't decided by one man. Pedro's killings followed a pattern. He didn't kill for pleasure. He killed with purpose, or at least what he believed was purpose. His methods were brutal but direct. Close-range attacks, knives and simple weapons. No complicated planning. He preferred face-to-face confrontation. Why? Because he wanted his victims to know why they were dying. He often said, "I only killed people who deserved it." But law doesn't work like that. Justice isn't decided by one man. Eventually, the law caught up with Pedro. He was arrested in the early 1970s. But prison did not stop him. In fact, it made things worse. In Steinzeit-Printilling. Yes, he murdered fellow inmates, especially those he believed were guilty of serious crimes. Reports suggest he killed dozens more inside prison. At one point, he was kept in isolation because even other criminals feared him. Investigators were shocked. Here was a man who, show regret, justified every killing, saw himself as a hero. Psychologists studied him deeply. Their conclusion: Pedro was shaped by childhood trauma, exposure to violence, lack of emotional development, He didn't see himself as evil. He saw himself as necessary. After spending decades in prison, Pedro was eventually released. Brazilian law at the time had limits on maximum prison sentences. Shockingly, a man who claimed over 100 killings walked free. After release, he tried to live a different life. He even became active on social media, talking about crime and justice. His past never left him. Pedro Rodrigues Filho is about crime. It's about what violence creates, how trauma shapes lives, and how justice can never be taken into one's own hands. Because once you cross that line, there's no coming back. If you found this story shocking, thought-provoking, or eye-opening, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Because real stories like this remind us how thin the line is between justice and darkness.